Hello and welcome to April Bards Day. All day long, we're going to just be talking about how awesome D&D bards are because everybody hates them. And it's the single most NSFW thing I could think of for April Bards Day. So thank you, Charles Smith, for the idea. This is all your fault. I am your April Bards Day grumpy guide to all things bards. Let's talk about why bards are awesome. And I'm not talking about the way bards are pictured today, thanks to certain pink-haired, green-haired, manic pixie dream girls. I'm talking about the original bard, the hardcore bard, the bard that was just the man. And you know why bards were the man in 5th edition? Because in 1st edition AD&D, they were the original prestige class, the original hardcore. A character could become a bard only after meeting specific and difficult requirements, achieving levels in multiple character classes, becoming a bard only later. The process of becoming a bard in the 1st edition was very similar to what would later be standardized in D&D as a prestige class. The 1st edition bard eventually became the Falcon Lyris prestige class in the 3rd edition supplement Complete Adventurers. To become a bard, a human or half-elf had to begin with a strength of 15, a wisdom of 15, a dexterity of 15, and a charisma of 15, an intelligence of 12, and a constitution of 10 in 1st edition. These daunting requirements made bards one of the rarest character classes. Bards began the game as a fighter, and after achieving 5th level, they had to change their class to that of a thief. And this is in their 1st edition, which means when you dual class in 1st edition, you instantly switched to 1st level again. So that 5th level fighter would become a 1st level thief. And after reaching 5th level as a thief, they had to change again, leaving off thieving and begin clerical studies as a druid. But this time they were actually bards under druid tutelage. Bards gained a limited number of druid spells and could be any alignment that was neutral or on at least one axis. Because of the nature of dual classing in AD&D, bards had the combined abilities of both fighters and thieves, in addition to their newly acquired lore, druid spells, all level-dependent druid abilities, additional languages known, the special ability known as legendary information about magic items they may encounter, and a percentage chance to automatically charm any creature that hears the bard's magical music. Bards must have first acquired levels as fighter and thief. They are the most powerful 1st level than any other class. This version of the bard is a druidic lore master more than a wandering minstrel and entertainer, though they did have bard songs and poetic powers as well. So talk about hardcore. And you got to remember that the whole idea of the bard class is based upon the Dark Ages medieval idea of a wandering troubadour, wandering messenger, wandering entertainer, wandering ambassador. And in those times, that was the only way to get information. Was if you lived in this town and somebody else lived in this town, there was no railroad, there was no internet, there was no airplanes, there was no mailman. People rarely left their entire reality, which was their town and maybe the surrounding area. They had no idea what was going on in the kingdom unless somebody came through and told them. So the bard was your traveling messenger. He was also your traveling mailman. If this guy wanted to send information to this guy and he didn't have a horse, he had to wait for the traveling bards to come through and then trade the information with them before the bard would move on to the next place. So they were, and you weren't allowed to harm a bard. A bard basically was walking with the king's blessing. They were untouchable. You couldn't hurt them. And they could say and do whatever they wanted. They could walk into the king's court and blatantly insult the king and get away with it. That was how much power these individuals had at one point in time. They could insult the king. Kingdoms rose and fall. If, a bard took a disliking to a certain king, he could say things and do things and manipulate things to the point where the king would, be out of favor because the people depended upon the bard to tell them what was going on. I mean, look at, the play within a play in Hamlet. That was Hamlet's way of using the bards to inform the court that he knew exactly what had happened to his father and that he was planning revenge on his mother and his uncle. That is how hardcore bards are. Now, I know bards today have this namby-pamby, pink-haired, manic pixie dream girl. They're just little gay guys who run around stealing everybody else's glory and banging all the girls and banging all the boys and making everybody, oh, the bard's so powerful. He can do everything everybody else can do. Why? But no. You got to remember, these guys had to go 5 levels of fighter, then start over as a first level thief, go through 5 levels of thief, then start over as a first level druid, and then they were bards. And that is an original D&D, where you can only roll 3d6 for your stats, and your starting hit points for a fighter was like a d8. Yeah. So stop picking on bards, because they can make kingdoms rise and fall. Not safe for work. PG-13. Trigger warning, consent required, blah, 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 blah. Happy April Bards Day.